I was asked to consider running for the NDP. I had no thoughts of running for political office before that. I was happy being just a social justice activist. But really, what I thought at that point was maybe I can make a difference. And my major issue then, and is now still, those who live on the margins. Maybe I can make a difference if I actually run and win. And I did, despite all odds, and I've won 4 times since. So since I've, as you probably are well aware, tabled more and passed more private members' bills than anybody in Ontario's history, and also more LGBTQ legislation, both tabled and passed. That's a pretty low bar, but still I've done it. So I think it's been worth it. When the party has veered to the right, as it's been doing these many years, I've been pretty outspoken. I was outspoken after the first provincial election when I saw what happened there, and I was outspoken after the federal election when I saw what happened there. Basically the same thing. And I'm being outspoken now because, yet again, after the Edmonton Convention, when the rank and file made, I think, some painful but absolutely necessary decisions. The most democratic convention I would say we've ever had in the NDP. Then all of a sudden, people in the party started to attack the rank and file for their decisions, attack the Leap Manifesto, attack them for repudiating Mulcair and those around him and that centrism. And so I felt somebody really needs to give them a voice. And those are all the people I know, and I'm in contact with all the socialists who really want to see the party be what it should be, Democratic Socialist Party. All of them became disenchanted. Many of them stayed away. Many of them have stayed away from the NDP for years. I want to give them a voice, so that's why I ran. Because it shouldn't be about the money. Certainly not $30,000. That's double what it last was. And keep in mind that Jeremy Corbyn, ran for the UK leadership with a handful of signatures. So to me, that sends absolutely the wrong message that it takes money to become the leader of a Democratic Socialist Party. And it's not just the $30,000. It's $1.5 million, up to $1.5 million that someone can spend. Well, that's daunting, and that makes it about raising money and not about the issues and the principles. To me, this race, and it should always be about the principles, and we should not have money as the arbiter for whether people can enter or not. As I've said, why not signatures? Why not something that someone can do without having to raise a lot of money? And quite frankly, I can't afford it, and most people couldn't afford it who are interested in running for the leadership of the NDP. I'm like most Canadians. I don't have a pension. I owe money. I have a car loan. I have money on my line of credit. To make it about money is absolutely inappropriate. I'm sure that if I set my mind to it, I could raise the money, but this is a principled campaign about principles, and so I don't want to start out of the gate by breaking one of them, and that is that we should have an even playing field. It shouldn't be about the money. So that's number one. Number two is, I've always said that if a stronger candidate comes forward who stands for the same principles our party was founded on, the principles that Douglas and Wordsworth and Magnus MacPhail started the party on, which are profoundly democratic, socialist and labor union principles, then I'm happy to stand aside and to absolutely back them in any way I can. So it really isn't about me as a person. It really is about getting those principles out there. I'm working on it, and absolutely, that's why I say if there's a stronger candidate that comes out of Quebec that has French, by all means. Listen, I can absolutely imagine stronger candidates that will win more easily than I will. The critical issues, the climate crisis. We saw the wildfires at Fort McMurray. We see flooding in the Seine. We see 51 degrees registered in India. This is a crisis, and we're acting as if it's not in this country. And quite frankly, we're acting as if it's not in our party, because if we're even toying or pussyfooting around the issue of building more pipelines, we're not being true to our commitment. And also, by the way, not being true to First Nations, our commitment to them and Aboriginal peoples, because really we're talking about unceded territory here, and unless we're serious about treaty rights and about dealing with them, we shouldn't even be talking about that kind of huge infrastructure development. So again, there's a critical issue, and there's a critical issue we have to be loud and proud about, it seems to me. The other things are labor issues, precarious employment. We need to help unions organize. We need to be a labor party, and that means sectoral organizing, it means card check, it means anti-scab legislation. It's a whole raft of things that it means. Many of them provincial, but the federal government sets the symbolic standard, puts that word out there. The federal party should stand for this loud and proud again. And social justice issues. I've been a queer activist for a long time now, but it shouldn't be just about here that gender identity and gender expression is in our Human Rights Code, and federally it just covers, even if it passes federally, it just covers the criminal code and federal employees. All of the provinces should have this. Everyone should have parent equality. Everyone should ban conversion therapy. These are, again, profound social issues. And poverty. CPP should be something you can live on. Social assistance should be something you can live on. We all need a living wage. These are issues that should be coast to coast, and our party should be standing again profoundly on them. Housing, national housing policy that really means a home for everyone. And when I say these things, everybody says, oh my God, utopian. Free post-secondary, of course, everywhere too. But the reality is they're already in place in other countries, and they manage to pay for them. So again, that's what democratic socialism looks like. Why aren't we that party? We need to be that party. There is tons of money. Banks are paying on the average about 2% tax rate. Our banks that make billions. It's outrageous. It's disgusting. And our tax rates used to be far more progressive than they are now. I mean, even under conservative governments, our tax rates were more progressive. I mean, our corporate tax and wealth tax has steadily gone like this over the decades, and that's why our social services are flagging. We live in a country that has systemic racism, and by the way, setting a $30,000 bar and $1.5 million doesn't encourage people of color to run either, or Indigenous peoples who tend to not have a lot of money at the ready. So we live in a country of systemic racism. This has been very, very clear with the Black Lives Movement. Lip service is paid, but fundamental changes aren't made, and it's the fundamental changes we really need to make. So again. These are equity issues, and at core, I would argue they're economic issues. So until we start looking at the inequity where poor women of color are at the lower echelon and white men are at the higher echelon, until we start looking at those issues, which are at their core economic issues, we can't expect to progress forward, and we have to really talk about them and really put them into our party platform in a way that's meaningful. So that's extremely important to me as well. Well, obviously carding should be illegal. I mean, carding is illegal. I would say there's a charter challenge that could still happen around carding, even though some changes have been made. So we have to look at the way we do policing. We have to look at who police work for. Quite frankly, they should be working for everyone. So there's a lot that we should be looking at the way the police do policing. That tends to be municipal, actually, but it's also federal. Again, the federal government has a role to play here, very symbolically. But they also have a role, and the reason policing is as it is because of the stratification of the classes in our society. We have to, at the end of the day, have a class analysis of what's going on in Canada. I mean, the wealthy, and they're getting fewer and fewer, are getting wealthier and wealthier. The poor are getting poorer and poorer, and they're getting more and more of them. The middle class is emptying out. That is the reality in all of North America, not just in Canada. Actually, we have more concentrated wealth in Canada than they do even in the States. This is a real problem, and the answer for that is progressive taxation. first of all, we have to have real treaty discussions with them and talk about land. You had the case of Attawapiskat, where you've got this community where children are killing themselves and where they don't have clean drinking water, which is the case of most of our First Nations, as you know. And 90 kilometers away, there's a diamond mine. I mean, can it be more stark than that? Now, De Beers response is, well, we hire some of them. I mean, really? So land is critical. Those land discussions. Let's settle those land claims. Let's talk treaty. Let's go to the negotiating table. Let's not just play games with this, give apologies, and then walk away, because that's what we're doing. Every child in this country deserves a decent education. Every child in this country deserves to be able to drink clean water. I mean, we saw the hullabaloo about Flint, Michigan. We have Flint, Michigan in every one of our Indigenous communities, just about north. So again, let's just do that. And there's all this fighting between the feds and the province. The federal government's their primary responsibility. They need to step up and do something. But the province also has huge responsibility to every child needs an education, the water systems, grassy narrows. That can be cleaned up. Scientists say it can be cleaned up. The mercury can be cleaned up. What are we waiting for? Look, I'm not pro anybody. What I've always said is, what needs to happen there is the wall needs to come down, or the occupation needs to end. Really, what the discussion was ever about was the tactics and the focus, because quite frankly, right now, my major focus federally would be don't sell tanks to the Saudis. I mean, we need to start looking at how we do international relations generally across Canada. I think the rank and file are there already. I think most of our membership is there already. I think this is how most of our membership feels and believes. I think they just, thought that they had to play the game to get power. The game, first of all, the game's corrupt. Second of all, it shouldn't be about power, and it shouldn't be about pundits, and it shouldn't be about polling, as I said. It should really be about passion and principles, and that our rank and file's already there. And what they don't see is that we're shutting out a whole lot of people who don't feel that the NDP is their home, who don't feel that they can make a commitment to the party, because they don't see the party giving them anything that they can hang their hat on, anything that they feel passionate about, anything that they could, that even campaign over. Like, they need a party that stands for something and stands for them, and that's what I think socialism gives us, and that's what I think a good anti-capitalist critique gives us. It's the only thing that does. I mean, you don't have to be Naomi Klein to see that the kind of casino capitalism that we have right now in Canada is antithetical to keeping the planet going and to keeping people going. Will we wait until only a few people have money and everybody else is living on the streets? Will we wait until there's no water to drink and no air to breathe? Will we wait until there are tornadoes ripping through Toronto and we have our own outrageous weather events here? What's it going to take before we wake up? And I think many of us are awake, we see it, and then we just want political expression of that. Like, who's going to carry this forward into the halls of power and do something with it? This power that really is grassroots. And I'm just giving it voice, that's all I'm doing. Well, first of all, we made the right call, which was 60% in Edmonton decided that this was something that we should take back to all of our riding associations and discuss. And that was the right call. Are we discussing in our riding associations? I hope so. But more to the point, it's a great organizing tool. Look at the polls on it. 40% of Canadians think that there's value in the Leap Manifesto. 50% of the Liberal Party, 57% of the NDP, I think 58% of the Greens. I mean, people really do think, a lot of people really do believe that there's something to be had in the Leap Manifesto. And of course, it's a third-party document. It's not our document. We need to, adopt our own document. But I can tell you that it has to be dramatic. We have to take dramatic steps.